Hi and welcome to our lesson on corporate social responsibility. And I'm going to start with one of those posing questions for you. I've got these 4 pictures here and I want you to consider whether they're corporate social responsibility. Okay, so are these nice things for a business to do? And are they legally required to do them? Okay, so here we have in the top corner here, we have a picnic set for a lovely day in the sunshine, but it's all made from recycled wood and cardboard. So the items are all there, are environmentally friendly and sustainable. In the bottom left-hand side here, we've got a business, and a number of businesses I know do this, where they allow their workers to have some time off to volunteer for local causes or for environmental programs or for benefits to society programs. So allowing your staff to have time off to effectively do things for a broader community benefit. Is that a nice thing for business to do? Are they legally required to do that? Thirdly, over the top here, we have a work on a construction site with face mask to protect them hopefully from COVID. We've got the gloves and we've got the high-vis vest and the eye protection wear. Okay, is that a good thing for business to do? Are they legally required to do it? And finally, the 4th one here, coming from Mount Martha, myself, this is regularly flying over the top of us. We see Westpac rescue helicopters flying across to rescue people from the peninsula when they get into trouble. Owned and operated by Westpac and paid for by them. Is that a nice thing for business to do? And are they legally required to do them? So mull over those 4 scenarios. I'll give you the answer when we get into the slides. So see you shortly. So this lesson will be on CSR, which is shortened version for corporate social responsibility, and how we see this and use this in operations. So in this lesson, we're going to cover corporate social responsibility, sometimes shortened down to CSR, and we're going to consider how it can be used or its implications for the operation systems. And the 3 parts we're going to consider are we're going to consider its use for environmental sustainability, the amount of waste generated from processes, and also for the production of outputs. So those are the 3 aspects we're going to cover in this lesson, as well as an overview of what corporate social responsibility is in the first place. But as we can see here, this word considerations is important to highlight. So considerations is used throughout VCE Business Management. We're using corporate social responsibility considerations, also in global considerations, and it's used to reflect concepts, themes, concerns that business managers consider. They take into consideration when making business decisions. So these considerations may then inform strategies that are implemented by the business. So we're going to consider corporate social responsibility, and should we and where should we include it in our operation system. Okay, now if you've joined us from our opening slide where there was a quick quiz question, so if you identified all 3 of these scenarios except for the workers' face mask and so on as being CSR, you are correct. Congratulations. Which then draws into perspective, what is corporate social responsibility? Well, technically, this is where a business goes above and beyond legal expectations required by regulators. So key word here, above and beyond. Okay, so repeat that with me. Above and beyond legal expectations. So what we're legally required to do. So more than what we're legally required to do. And we're going to consider the environment, the health and welfare of a wider society, and also an ethical concern for our workforce. Okay? So above and beyond legal expectations, caring for the environment, caring for our wider society, as well as our own workforce within it. So let's take those 4 pictures again and keep considering, are these nice things for business to do, and are we legally required to do them? So this first scenario here of using environmentally sustainable products and packaging, and the utensils are all made from environmentally recyclable and hopefully biodegradable resources. Well, yes. Is that above and beyond what's legally required from us? Yes. Are we legally required to do that? Well, at the moment, no. So this is above and beyond legal requirements. So it is going to compete with both, and it's definitely going to help the environment. So that would be classified as a corporate social responsibility action. So that's a good thing for us to do. So as we talk about operations, we could be building into us environmentally sustainable operations, looking for sustainable raw materials, recycling products. All of that would classify as corporate social responsibility and a consideration we can take into place when making our operations decisions. Second one, allowing our staff time off to help out with volunteer causes. I've got a colleague of mine who used to work for the ANZ Bank who was allowed to spend time helping out at the local prison and educational programs. I've got another colleague who was allowed to go and count turtles on beaches and have time for making sure that their wildlife in the marine sanctuary was being protected. Wonderful cause. So businesses allowing their staff to have time away to either support local causes or environmental benefits, etc. So, firstly, is this above and beyond what they're legally required to do? Absolutely. Is this concern for the broader society, and in this case here also the environment? Again, absolutely. So it's a good thing for them to do, and it's above and beyond what they're required. We'll go to the Westpac helicopters. Again, they're providing this service from the funds from Westpac. So this is non-core because their core operation is to provide a banking service for people. So this is above and beyond what they're required to do. On top of that, it's got a broader social impact that you're rescuing people in need, whether or not they've got a bank account with a Westpac branch. And so that's a great cause as well. So it's great for society and it is above and beyond what's required. Now the tricky one. So in this scenario here, when we've got workers with protective face gear and eyewear on a construction site, they're legally required to do that. So please, this is the important bit. If they're already legally required to do this, it is not going above legal expectations. You can't therefore use this as an example of corporate social responsibility in either your SAC or your exam answers. So please avoid that. Anything that you're legally required to do does not come under this area of consideration. So we're going above and beyond legal expectations, caring for the environment, society, and our own workforce. That would classify as having a corporate social responsibility consideration at play. So I've already covered a few examples, but here's a few more of where businesses have used corporate social responsibility considerations in their operations management. Firstly, the use of fair trade ingredients. Now, some of you may well have seen this logo or something very similar to it used on the sides of packages for coffee beans and chocolates, etc., where the business is saying that it is not only paying for the raw materials, but is ensuring that the workers that, for this case here, cocoa beans or coffee beans, those raw workers are getting a fair deal for the work they're contributing. So they're getting paid a fair amount for their time and effort, and this is helping their family and their local society as well as their own incomes. So this is, again, going above and beyond what's legally required to do to make sure that the workers in these countries that provide their raw material get a fair deal. Secondly, if we're working in a factory, if we're legally required to provide eyewear, that's not going to be a CSR. But if we're going to be above and beyond that, so maybe by lessening light pollution or lessening noise pollution by giving staff members headphones to protect their ears, and it's not that noisy and they're just doing it as a goodwill gesture, then yes, that's going to be above and beyond legal expectations, and it's caring for your workforce. So that also would be a good example. And a third example here is ensuring that the end product that you produce is fully recyclable. So examples of this are mobile phones, and we'll go to the shoes example as well. You may well have seen these outside Woolworths, these recycling bins for your phones. The idea being that it's a deal with the phone companies that they'll help assist in having that product recycled. So you drop it off at Woolworths, gets recycled, it's going to reduce waste. Now, those phone companies and also Woolworths don't have to do that. They're not legally required to. However, it's an environmentally good thing to do to have these products recycled so we can use them again in future phones. And I know for shoes, my son buys a couple of brands of shoes that are part of the deal is that at the end of their life, you take them back to the companies you bought them from and they get recycled into other shoes. So the idea being is, again, that these are great examples of we see corporate social responsibility in the operations process and how businesses are considering it and taking advantage of that opportunity to do so. Okay, so the question probably needs to be asked, like, why do businesses do this? If they're not legally required to do these actions, they're going above and beyond legal expectations, they're helping out the environment, they're helping out their workforce and society in a broader level. Why are they doing this, apart from the goodwill of their hearts? Okay, well, there's a number of reasons, very cleverly, that businesses can take advantage of this situation. Now, one, hopefully, just from ethical and moral values alone, these environmental benefits are wonderful. The idea being that by businesses taking on this perspective of doing things they don't have to do to preserve the environment, to use sustainable plantations, to use sustainable energy sources, all of those are great for the environment broadly, and the businesses are just doing that because they would like to. Secondly, there's a benefit for the employees. If you work for a business that is known to have a great concern for the environment or society, it becomes a source of pride to work for those businesses. So these businesses become known as employers of choice, where you as an individual want to work for them because they've got a good association. So companies like Body Shop, companies like Westpac that I mentioned, by being associated with those businesses, people want to work for them. They feel motivated. They feel a sense of pride. Equally, we have the situation here where more people will want to apply for positions when they become available with those businesses because it's a great business to be associated with. So suddenly these businesses are going to get a bigger pool of staff to choose from and arguably better quality staff. So that can be really good as well. There's a broader society benefit that not only is the business benefiting from hopefully the reputation that comes with this and the connection to good causes, but the society is going to benefit from, say, the Westpac helicopters coming to rescue them in a moment of need. That's really good. We've got environmental benefits, society benefits. Now, all of these things also get media coverage. So when you see someone being rescued on the Channel 9 or Channel 7, Channel 10 news, and you see the Westpac slogan on that, that might hover on your screen for 30 or 40 seconds. That's additional marketing coverage for the Westpac logo on that screen. So there's undoubtedly marketing, reputation, and sales benefits. That you want to buy products from good companies, that you want to be buying fair trade products because you know it's going to a good cause and supporting the local farmers, or that you know that it's being sustainably sourced or environmentally responsible. All of those great things can lead to better sales. So it's smart on a business profit level as well. And arguably also a benefit is if things go wrong, if you've built up a good reputation over a long period of time, then sometimes it's believed that the society will give you a bit of a benefit for the doubt for that goodwill that's been accumulated over a period of time. So heaven forbid something goes wrong in the future, this build-up of goodwill can insulate you from things going wrong in the future. So there's lots of wonderful reasons why corporate social responsibility should be considered in the operations process. However, it has to be understood that this is non-core work that we're doing here. Our core activities about what we need to do to generate profits, etc., is one aspect, but going above and beyond our legal expectations to help out for the environment, workforce, and society is not in our core area. So these are not central to business operations. So therefore, it could be argued that it's both time-consuming and sometimes expensive to support these non-core activities. However, hopefully, ethically, morally, on lots of levels, we would hope that the benefits of pursuing a CSR consideration in your operations process outweighs the limitations. Okay, the first area we're going to consider is the CSR considerations for the area of inputs in operations management. So our key takeaway from here is sourcing materials and resources that are environmentally sustainable is definitely one way to consider CSR for inputs. Okay, making sure that our raw materials, our labor, machinery, factories do not damage or deplete natural resources. Now, there's lots of examples you can draw upon here, and you may well have your own in terms of your part-time jobs where you're seeing this in action, but I'll share a few of them here. Locally in my area is the Red Hill Brewery on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula. Now, they use locally grown hops and barrels from the local vineyards. The idea being is by using their own locally grown hops, and not having to import them either from overseas or from further away within Australia, is you don't need to spend so much money on fuel for transportation, which will reduce the transport emissions associated with brewing the beer. So that's going to be a good thing to do. Again, above and beyond legally required, sourcing locally sourced raw materials to try and reduce the damage from emission. Secondly, we've got these examples of the recycled paper, sustainable seafood, or even sneakers made out of eco-conscious wood pulp and recycled cotton from this Timberland True Cloud supply. So using environmentally sustainable methods to use our resources. So whether being seafood, being sustainably farmed, or using the pulps in terms of making the shoes. So all of these is using environmentally sustainable methods. We don't have to do it, going above and beyond, but a great input to build into our raw materials. And then also for services. So we have Intrepid Travel, which is well known as a global source of holidays and travel opportunities. They've committed to reducing their energy emissions by 71% by 2035, mainly by using renewable energy, not only in their offices, but also in their operators in the host countries. So there are lots of things that can be considered both from a goods and services position in terms of operations management to be more sustainable and to be more environmentally friendly. Okay, our second area where we can consider corporate social responsibility is in the processes component of the elements of operations management. So this is about what we're doing to things. Okay, so we can definitely reduce waste during production. It's a CSR consideration for processes. And we can aim to do this through things like forecasting. So the idea being like using past data to anticipate how much we need to produce, so therefore altering the amount of raw materials we need to purchase, but also like how our production process is going to be set up for the future. We can also alter the lean management, which we'll get to later on in 3H, and also by using just in time, which we've covered before, by getting the material to arrive just in time, so we've got the production process running really smoothly and not generating any waste. So a couple of real examples of that is Coal United Brewing. Again, if any of you have been lucky enough to go on a tour there, or you've seen a couple of videos, they actually make beer to a predetermined weekly quota. So by using forecasting, they anticipate how much beer to produce. So rather than just going 24/7 for 7 days a week producing mass quantities of beer, once they've reached their quota, they stop production. So often you'll find that they won't be making beer on a Friday, say, because they've already met their predetermined load. So the processes can be capped to produce waste and also to be more environmentally considerate, both from the energy you need to have the operations open on a Friday and the raw materials you're going to use and then just dispose of and waste afterwards. One example. Another one, the idea that the Toyota production system uses this lean management, which we'll get to later, which is about reducing waste in all your operations. That's, again, reducing waste in how we produce goods. We haven't got to discard so much waste. We haven't got to use so much energy in producing waste that's not needed. All of that being environmentally unfriendly, we can avoid that by using the lean management approach. And then another example here is Audi. Audi Australia have committed to 25% reduction in plastic packaging in their stores. So like if you look at this picture down here, if you go to their fresh fruit and veg stores in many of their Audi stores, you won't see the plastic packaging anymore around that. So the aim is by 2025 that brand product packaging will be 100% recyclable, reusable or combustible, and they're going to switch to cardboard punnets for a range of produce and remove plastic bags from the fruit and vegetable stands. So again, they don't have to do this. This is going above and beyond, and the reason being they're trying to be more environmentally sustainable. So all of these are CSR considerations in the process area of production. Now we can also have CSR considerations in relation to our outputs from the production system. So the idea being, while the output of a business is meant to create value to the customer, hopefully it is also a socially responsible thing to ensure that the goods and services produced do not cause harm to the wider community. So it's just making sure that the output that we actually make is good for the environment, it's good for our workforce, and it's good for society in general. So hopefully, if we can develop a product that is environmentally friendly, so we can have paper rather than plastic straws so that they can break down properly, that we can create products that have recyclable elements at the end of their product life cycle. And we've talked about the shoes being able to be reused for new shoes, eliminating plastic packaging from the final product, or delivering products in bulk so we don't have to have lots of deliveries which are going to use up more carbon emissions. All of those type of things can hopefully create an end output which is more environmentally sustainable, it's better for our workforce, and it's better for society in general. So all of those can therefore create an output which have a CSR consideration. Okay, let's look at a worked example of how we might see some of this knowledge appearing in the end of the year examinations or in our SACs. So here's our question. Define the term corporate social responsibility. So we can see that as being the first part of the question, and then outline how it applies to operations management. So we can see two parts to it, and then therefore, big surprise, the first bit defining the term, and the second bit applying it to operations management is what's going to give us the full marks. So taking this through nice and smoothly, so corporate social responsibility takes into account an approach that is both ethically and socially responsible. It considers how its practices affect the environment and the health and welfare of wide society, and expresses ethical concern for its workforce and their families, going above and beyond what is legally required by regulators. So nice definition, nice and tight. And here's an example here. Examples of CSR behaviour in operations management would include ensuring the environmental sustainability of inputs, reducing the business's carbon footprint, and using only fair trade ingredients in the production process to produce outputs that are better for the environment and contribute positively to society. So nice and tight, nice and clear response, 2 marks, sufficient detail to get the full 2 marks. So well done. Okay, hopefully here we have a nice summary of what we've covered in this lesson here. So lesson has been all about corporate social responsibility. Okay, so this is all about ethics and values. So involves the ethical conduct of a business beyond legal obligations. So doing more than legally is required from us, and considering society, the economic and the welfare aspect of our workforce, and the environmental impacts when making business decisions. So doing the good things above and beyond what is legally required. And we've covered the 3 areas of looking out for that in our inputs, in our processes, and also in the outputs. So the 3 elements of operations management with a CSR consideration, setting up our mindset about how we do business properly. So we've covered that hopefully really well in this lesson. So I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson where we'll look at the global considerations for operations management.